2025? Certainly can't say Happy New Year anymore. Can't say it's winter anymore.
Both would be inaccurate.
Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. Already planning out my attacks on everybody.
There you go.
You ever gotten anybody really good?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, on radio, too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You did the AAA team.
That's right.
Yeah.
My man Darren McFarland, who was the one of the hosts of the show that I produced for in Nashville. We used to love picking on him because he did the Ron Burgundy thing, where if it's on the script, he's gonna read it. Right, Ron Burgundy. So what we did one year was the Nashville Sounds. We had a ticket giveaway for the Nashville Sounds opening day game against the Gwinnett Stripers. So I just thought, I could pull a fast one on them by going back into the software we used to print off our liners. We'd print them off every day, and I would just throw an extra P in Stripers, so it became the Gwinnett Strippers. And sure enough, April Fool's Day, read it on air.
The rest of the staff knew this, or was this an Elijah Campbell lone wolf surprise?
Oh, I cleared it with the PD. He was also on the show.
Okay.
He was one of the hosts on the show as well.
Okay.
I was like, what do you think of this? This would be pretty funny, wouldn't it? And he just started dying. He was like, yes, because he will read that.
That's good. And the victim was ultimately okay with it?
Oh, he got a kick out of it.
Okay. That's funny.
It was hilarious.
It's good.
Yeah, it was absolutely hilarious. Yeah, come out. You could win tickets to see the Nashville Sounds season opener against the Gwinnett Strippers. Worked like a charm. Just the way we drew it up.
Yeah, I tried it once. We'll probably talk about it again tomorrow, too. But I tried it once on my old show, on the old AM show way back in the day, to get everybody to think that South Carolina was changing their nickname from Gamecocks to Spurs. And it worked for a minute. Maybe.
Did you not sell
it? And then immediately, had somebody call and, another person email almost at the same time, April Fools. I was like, yeah. I probably could have done a better job of selling it.
So much of it is how you sell it.
Yeah,
so much of a good April Fool's prank is how you tee it up and how you sell it to the public. You got to buy what you're selling.
We'll talk more about April Fool's jokes on tomorrow's program. Lots to get to today. Of course, Mondays during baseball season, me and our weekly visit with Gamecock baseball coach Paul Maneri, another very, in his words, disappointing performance from his ball club. He said, not discouraging, disappointing. Those were his words in postgame yesterday. I'm certain you can probably draw distinctions in the sense that I guess discouraging means he would have seen things that are going to prevent this team from getting better relative to just being disappointed. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you hey, there's great news out there. This team does get on base. I think that's probably for him the most frustrating part of all this. They get on base, but they don't bring them across. And Jack Veltri made a great point in his report yesterday about that fifth inning. You had the bases loaded and nobody out. And you had a quick strikeout and GIDP. And next thing you know, boom, done. And, Tennessee's better than you. Yeah. But you had some chances. You had some chances. And you're just not taking them. So we'll see. We'll talk a lot of baseball. Softball gets a good win on the road. So good for them. They're firmly in the top 10 at this point in time. But obviously the big story of the weekend for the Gamecocks is Don Staley's ball club making a fifth consecutive Final Four appearance. And I don't know. Look, she basically said, and Elijah, you were there, hey, we at this point kind of have to play the game that's presented. And I don't want to say that runs in contrast to something Tahina Paopao said after the first game of the regional. But, Tahina basically said, we need to be the ones doing the punching. And I think for a little bit yesterday early, they did.
When they got up 10-2. Yeah, you could tell.
You could tell they had that. But you and I were talking this morning, and any of you that watched the game know this. Ultimately, that was Duke's game. And I don't mean that was Duke's game to win or lose. What I mean is once Duke settled down, then they played the game they wanted to play. And the game they wanted to play was like the new modern-day definition of basketball rock fight. They did it against Chapel Hill on Friday. Right after we signed off with you, and I had a segment to go, that game ended because I think you went to watch about 5 minutes of that game. And so one of the last things I did Friday was read just some of the quick numbers on the box score. And I think, Duke shot like 31% and North Carolina shot like 28%. But that's what Duke wanted. And they won. And yesterday, it's what they wanted. And let's face it, y'all. I mean, that was as nervy a game as I think Carolina's had, other than if you want to, because 2 of your 3 losses, you just got beat. And the Texas game, you got down to the point where you made it a game, but then you just didn't quite have enough to get it done. So it wasn't quite the same formula. And it was in Texas's gym. The other 2 times you've seen Texas, you took pretty comfortable care of them. But yesterday, Duke made it very uncomfortable. They did not want Carolina to see the ball inside. Carolina took a lot of, those mid-range shots that nobody really likes to take. So few basketball players in today's world are good at making the, Elijah, the 10 to 16 footer is what I would say. Mm-hmm.
Classic mid-range.
Yeah, it's just a these days it's just not, because you can't really set up for it and the ball just kind of flies off your hand.
29.5% of their shots were from about that 10 to 16.
Yeah, and again, Duke wanted that. Tessa never got going yesterday.
Took 1 shot in 12 minutes.
Yeah, just didn't. I mean, that's just it. I think they took her. Hey, listen, if she gets going, that's the word on Tessa. And I always like to. I've said since last year in the Final Four, like I call her the assassin because she can make the kill shot. Mm-hmm. And so teams know that now. Like, don't let Tessa. Don't let her shoot.
Run her off the three-point line.
Just don't let her shoot.
You'd rather her try to beat you from 10 to 16 feet or near the basket than you would with an open three-point look. She'll kill you that way.
Look, wins are wins. And at this point, it doesn't matter. David Cloninger piece this morning kind of summed that up. Like, what Dawn has built and what everybody, not just the fans of South Carolina, but everybody has come to expect, just dominating performances with bigs, ruling the paint. And now, of course, in the last couple of seasons, adding Tahina, and, Bree can shoot, Tessa can shoot. You've added people that can really knock down the outside shot. And you just expect Carolina to run away with everything. But eventually, teams do figure out what they can do to at least frustrate you.
Duke defensively is as good as anybody in the
country. Man.
That team's elite.
Absolutely. And yesterday, when Carolina, got up, Duke had the big third quarter. That was another thing. Is typically South Carolina has been the team to dominate third quarter play. And yesterday it was Duke. And then Carolina, went on that 8-0 run, retook a 4-point lead. Then Duke tied it back up again. And at that point, you're like, okay, now what? And ultimately, defense did win the day for South Carolina. You were there. The Langston Moore lemon booty meter was like broken. It was, so high.
It's never been more on. Yeah, that was, I think, in my notes from the game. Pull up my notepad here. There's a certain point in the game is when Chloe missed the back-to-back free throws. I think I noted at a certain point that, Chloe misses 2 free throws, a little bit of upset voodoo in the air. There was.
Yeah.
Like in those games, too, if you've ever been to an NCAA tournament game, especially if there's a good number of neutral observers, after a while when one team that's at the heavy underdog is either pulling ahead or has a chance to, you feel a change in the air a little bit, and the building almost turns on. Now, the building wasn't going to turn on Carolina because there was a strong Gamecock contingency there. But you felt like something weird can definitely happen in this game, because then a lot of the fundamental stuff that South Carolina normally does really well, they weren't exactly doing well. Like Duke almost got 20 offensive rebounds in that game. Carolina only had 3 until the last media time.
I did 19 offensive boards. And to me, there's the thing, right? If I'm going to circle one stat as to why this game stayed as tight as it did for as long as it did, it was because Duke was getting second chance opportunities.
And another stat, if I would have told you, Jay Phillips, on Saturday night, that Duke is going to outscore Duke's bench will outscore South Carolina's bench 24-9.
I wouldn't have believed you. I'd have said, no, you mean the other way around.
Yeah, because that's usually what happens.
Right.
And sometimes Carolina's bench outscores the entire other team. Duke outscored them 24-9 in bench points.
And I don't have the box score pulled up, but on that note of 19 offensive rebounds for Duke, didn't they take about that many more shots than South Carolina? I mean, almost proving that nearly every offensive board resulted in at least another opportunity relative to any kind of turnover or anything else?
Duke shot 7 more twos and 9 more threes.
Okay. So nearly that many, yeah.
They won the possession game. They squeezed possessions and shot attempts, really, despite turning the ball over 19 times. Carolina forced 19 turnovers, another big difference.
Yeah, I mean, again, ultimately, I think South Carolina's defense won the day. Yeah. But I think Duke dictated the pace. I won't say Duke was the better team. They didn't win.
Yeah, I don't think they're the better
So
team.
they're not that.
Completely either.
But as Dawn said in postgame, and you heard her say that, it kind of got brought to us and we had to play it. Now, you wonder this week, and we don't know yet if you're wondering, well, what happens Friday? Tune in tonight to Texas and Texas Christian, 2 schools that South Carolina has already seen this year. And again, Carolina won in Fort Worth comfortably.
By 30.
Carolina beat Texas here and in Greenville comfortably. Carolina really had multiple opportunities to take a lead in Austin, didn't win, but lost by 4. You like their chances against either of those teams, although Haley Van Lith is on another level. She and Paige Beckers are just hitting otherworldly levels at this point.
The TCU guards stole that game against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Ran away with it in that last quarter.
So we have those 2 rivals going at it tonight. That winner will play South Carolina. The other game tonight is Connecticut and Southern California. The Trojans, of course, without Juju Watkins right now. And again, Beckers scored 40 the other night. And we saw what Connecticut did to South Carolina here. So if they try to dictate the same pace, now Carolina can't see Connecticut until the title game. And Connecticut, should they win tonight, and I think most people now believe they will.
Southern Cal played well without Watkins against Kansas State, but it's a little bit of a different animal.
They did, and we'll see. Look, again, they built a good team out there. You're a 1 seed not because of one player. One player elevates you. One player does not a team make, even if it's the best player on the team. And I think they're showing they're pretty good. But tonight we shall see. So Connecticut could, if they win, and if Texas wins, then Connecticut will be the only non-1 seed in either Final Four.
Yeah.
So there's
pretty wild to believe.
There's that. Only the second time in the 64-team field that the men's Final Four is all ones. 2008 was.
Remember where that one was played?
Well, are you going to tell me San Antonio?
Because it is San Antonio. And now this year, the second time it's ever happened, also in, you guessed it, the lovely town of San Antonio. Charles Barkley's favorite place.
My late mother, she used to go to I can't remember what conference now, but it was held annually in San Antonio. And I think there was a point for like a year where I think my mother was thinking, I'm going to move to San Antonio. She would come back raving.
Loving it.
About San Antonio, Texas.
Everyone I've ever known
never been.
Gone loves it.
Yeah. Oh, she just, yeah. I need to go at some point. There's a lot of places I got to go. I've still never been to Chicago at my age, so I need to go to Chicago.
That one surprises me a lot. Yeah. Great town.
Anyway, we got a lot of hoops to talk about. We got baseball to get to. NFL owners meetings are underway. Basically, we can't put the final nail in the coffin yet, but more than likely we'll be holding a wake for the tush push.
Which is very unfortunate.
R.I.P. tush push.
Which is kind of soft.
Maybe not. There's a chance.
But there's a bigger chance that we do have to give the eulogy for it than we previously thought.
Yeah, a couple other things that the NFL owners will be voting on. So we got that for you. We got do I have to talk about the Braves?
Might as well. They did play baseball. Those games did count.
Well, they did.
Even though they didn't bring bats to San Diego. Bold strategy to leave your bats at home.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
The Yankees made their bats barrels bigger, and the Braves just forgot they had them.
How long before everybody's using those bats?
Oh, within weeks. I guarantee you. Guarantee everybody. But by the time we even hit May, everyone's going to be using those.
803-404-6100 to be a part of the program. It's the Monday Postgame Show. Welcome back into the Postgame Show, 20 minutes after 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. Final day of March. Hope everyone's doing well. Do batten down the hatches. Apparently, we're getting ready to get something.
Yeah, I heard. I haven't looked at the forecast today, but
apparently
I heard it ain't pretty.
Apparently, ugly shortly and windy and gross.
Disgusting.
So just keep that in mind when you're out driving. Elijah will have more with traffic.
Yeah, apparently it's already gnarly in some parts of the town. Your Bluff Road.
South Carolina beats Duke 54-50, getting to the Final Four for the 5th consecutive year. Of course, Carolina's won a couple of titles in that same span. You know, I think a lot of people now just wonder, like, to go back to what Tahina Paopao said after Friday's game, like, hey, can you be the one to take it to the opponent and sustain that? Or again, is Dawn, and it's not about a right or wrong, but as Dawn said in postgame, well, I mean, if they bring us a style, we have to just adapt to it. And I don't know where that balance might be this week. That would be my number one question. I'm curious as to how, I don't know how much of that theme you were discussing with the players in the locker room yesterday. I know you talked to almost all of them, which was pretty cool. But did you get a sense beyond Tahina of an acknowledgement that, maybe we need to be the aggressor if we can? Or is there an acceptance of, we can find ways to win?
I think Mylasia Fulwiley put it best when I was talking to her kind of about the adaptability, or maybe just the ability to win in any type of style. And she just says, we're winners. She told me we're winners. Like that's what we do. We don't like losing. We will play any style. And because we can, was pretty much the summation of that. Was we don't mind playing a knockdown, drag out game. We don't mind playing an up tempo game. Because that was kind of like the question I led to it was, you guys play in the SEC a lot of teams that like to get up and down the floor, and you play a lot of free flowing basketball in the regular season. And Duke was a team that absolutely wants that game to be a dogfight. And Mylasia kind of just said it. We can win that way too. They do in that locker room firmly believe, and this is based off just the conversations I've had with all of them, that they believe they can pack and play, and go anywhere and play whatever style anybody wants, which is fine. And honestly, at this point, the most important thing is just winning, right? Even if it's not very pretty. But there is something to be said about how maybe the offense has looked. On Bart Torvik, you can because Bart Torvik's a lot like Ken Pom, right? Where you can look at efficiency numbers throughout the season. There's a constant ranking and a formula. But on Bart Torvik, you can go, do what the rankings would be and the efficiency rankings would be from a certain time frame. So I went back and took from the day of the Indiana game, the second round, to now. Where is South Carolina ranking in offensive efficiency? They rank 41st in the country in that time frame. 6th defensively, and that's good enough to be 10th overall in the nation. But that is going to have to change if you play a team like TCU. Now, Texas is 22 in offensive rating in that time, but TCU is 2. They're scoring almost 1.4 points per possession in that time frame, which is blistering. They can absolutely shoot really well. I mean, it's going to be one of those games that, you're going to have to prove that you are a kind of a basketball chameleon once you get back to that, because they've changed a lot since December, so has South Carolina. That's kind of another theme of this tournament. You're playing a lot of teams that you've seen before. Some of them, it's been months since you have. So changing how you play and being adaptable to that is definitely a key to winning. But I think what this team also, based off the conversations I've had, is that when they get into one of those games that's in the 50s, they trust their defense to win it for them.
That was evident.
To be better. Yeah, they like to be better offensively. None of them were excited they only scored 54 points. But I think there's so much pride that they take in that end of the floor that they just know. Like Bree Hall, even when she was mentioning, that last possession, she's just like, I kind of just played basketball. She said, I let go and let God, but I'm just kind of playing basketball at that point. And the training she's had her entire life kind of moves her through that. And if you watch that last possession where they forced a Duke air ball, that was one of the better defensive possessions you'll see from any team at any level of basketball this season, because they locked it down.
Let's on that note, here's Dawn Staley in postgame on how the defensive play is propelling her ball club.
Well, considering I think we play either Texas or TCU, right? You know, if it's Texas, we're gonna muck it up just like we do in the, you know, in the Southeastern Conference. If it's TCU, much the same, because they can score a lot of points. I just hope that we can get our offense going a little bit. We can't seem to play a little bit more fluidly. I thought we played with a lot better pace than we did on Friday. So, I mean, the pace will help some, but, you know, when you have two teams that really defend, it's going to look like that. So, I thought both of us accomplished what we needed to accomplish while trying to get a win.
I would agree. Again, Duke absolutely came out. South Carolina wants to score more than 54 points. South Carolina was very comfortable in keeping Duke at 50.
Right.
But Duke, again, tip of the cap. And look, Duke's a 2 seed. Duke has seen South Carolina. Kara Lawson is you know, like Dawn, a high-level basketball lifer. To me, Elijah, and we mentioned it near the top of the show, to me, the big thing that Carolina should be, I don't want to say most concerned about, but certainly should have a high level of concern over, were Duke's 19 offensive rebounds. I mean, you got to do, you know, that's because you're forcing the missed shots, but it was almost, you know, and look, sometimes I think, and I know you study these things a lot more than I do, but yesterday there were several. I wouldn't say all of them. Can't tell you that like every single missed shot I saw the Duke player, but it felt like on a third of their missed shots, there was almost a Dennis Rodman-esque quality to Duke players knowing exactly where to be to get the rebound. Mm-hmm. That they were prepared for a missed shot and then an ability to go extend that possession. And I know a lot of teams do work on things like that. Again, I say Rodman because I just remember one of the things about Rodman in the 90s, like you might think Rodman was just the biggest weirdo, whatever, but the dude was a film junkie.
The clip from him in the documentary where he's talking about just studying where people's missed shots
and like the math of it all and exactly where to be. I mean, so, and again, that's a thing you can go do. You know, and Duke did it yesterday.
And credit to Duke, too. One thing I noticed that I got to notice just by my vantage point of basically sitting on the floor is they scouted South Carolina really well. Mm-hmm. So you notice when coaches are making hand signals for plays, to call plays, right? Like, for example, it can be like, I know TCU had a coach, he'd tug on his shirt for a play call. And I love watching that because I love being at games and trying to decipher myself what plays are. And I've got like a whole folder in my computer of every game I go to. I see a coach do a hand signal. I want to try to figure out what that means. But when from the first half, on like 3 or 4 instances, anytime Don would call something from the sideline, the Duke players defensively would mimic the same hand motion, and they'd have a couple girls pointing where each cut's going. They scouted it really well. Yeah. And that's one thing about tournament time is, look, the other team has film too. Yeah. They can figure out what you're going to do too. And you're playing the smartest teams in America and the teams that have the coaching staffs that are well equipped to be able to do it. Kentucky's coach who got fired from last year's squad, an assistant on Duke.
On Duke's team.
She's got a book on how South Carolina runs offense, especially with the personnel that was playing yesterday. So I thought it was just fascinating watching, players like Toby Fournier call out whenever they would just see the hand signal from Don or an assistant, call out, hey, you need to be here. You need to be here. And Duke talks really well on defense too. Another thing you just get to notice when you're on the floor is you get to hear them talking. You got to see two of the smartest teams in college basketball go at it yesterday, and they both knew exactly what each other was going to do. And sometimes when that's the case, you do get games in the 50s, which is why I feel like this team isn't panicking, because they know they, A, can win that way, B, they're just as smart prepared as every team they're going to face here on out as well.
And speaking of prepared, too, I want to give full credit to, again, going back to Friday afternoon, I thought the way Maryland played South Carolina was tremendous. And, again, South Carolina won the basketball game. They're that much better. Both of these are 4-point wins. You're being tested. You're being scouted. You got two excellent coaches. But, instead of and I'm not saying anybody is panicking, but I think there's a lot of, Carolina's just not quite, I want to give credit where credit is due to the teams they played
absolutely
in Birmingham, because they both played, I thought, at the about as well as they could play.
Especially Duke. Yeah. Duke defensively, they proved why they are a top 5 defensive unit in the sport.
Come back on the other side. Some good news for Carolina men's basketball as the portal is open. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Talking a lot of hoops. Carolina women into the Final Four. The men's Final Four is set, and it's an all-SEC affair in one of them, so the Southeastern Conference will have a representative in the national championship game.
That game is going to be thrilling. Both of those games are going to be thrilling.
Yeah, I think so. All chalk on the men's side. Potential for that to happen tonight. If Texas and Southern California win, then it'll be all ones. I know some people have, complained. I'll borrow from Coach Spurrier. It is what it is. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I get that it's obviously rare. I mean, look, we're in year 40, whatever now, of a 64-team bracket, and this is only the second time ever that, in those 40 that we've had all ones.
And 1 year does not a trend make, my friends.
No, and, it's the port. Well, what was it in 08?
Yeah. What was it in 08? Oh, also in the portal era, which is, the last 5 years or so. I'm old enough to remember when Florida Atlantic and San Diego State played in the Final Four.
Yeah, just a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was just 2 years ago.
It's not that big a deal. I mean, look, we all like the upsets, but I also think that when I say we, the collective sporting public, does also want to see, ultimately, the heavyweights. It's fun to see an upset from time to time.
Or a team make a run.
But in the end, I think you want the heavyweights going at each other, and in this case, you've got the ones. So I'm good with it. Let's put it that way.
Well, especially this year. I mean, this year the four teams that are participating in the Final Four in San Antonio, all four of those teams are inside the top 10 all time in KenPom net rating. All time. All four of these teams. You take the teams with the 10 best net ratings since KenPom has been keeping up with that net rating stat in 1997. Four of those teams are in the top 10.
And, look.
These are great teams, in all caps, GREAT, great basketball teams.
The biggest surprise, and it's not a surprise anymore, obviously, where Florida came from. Nobody was surprised, by Duke or Auburn or Houston, or even Alabama or Tennessee. I think Michigan State.
That was a little bit of a surprise to me.
Just because that's a good conference, and
they were as good as they were.
But Florida, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And then it just kept on going. And by the way, Auburn and Florida only played once in Auburn's gym. Florida won. I don't know what that means, other than Florida won at Auburn.
It was a hell of a game.
But does that mean Florida's better than them? I don't know. Glad, and now people, I even saw somebody, I mean, I know it was Twitter, so I'll be real careful here.
Where all the experts weigh in.
Janai Broom was faking it.
No, get out of here.
Really? You think he wanted to go back to the locker room and get x-rayed?
You think he wanted to hyperextend his
game?
Leg? Yeah.
They faking it?
Come on.
Faking it?
Did you watch his leg on the landing?
Yeah.
I'm not saying oh my God, that was a career ending. But it
didn't look good.
Hyperextending your knee hurts, man. Yeah, I've done it. But don't like it.
But I mean, there are genuinely people. Oh, he's faking it just to get. I'm like, no.
Yeah, in the second half of an Elite Eight game with the Final Four on the line, I'm sure exactly. He went to the trainer's room for a bleeping breather. Get out of here.
A couple of ho-hos and a Coke. What are we doing? No, no, man, no. But people will believe anything these days. They'll make themselves believe it. Anyway, but Michigan State, good game. I tell you, I don't want to say I'm disappointed in how Tennessee played Houston. It's just, I told you this morning, man, Houston just took it to Tennessee.
Houston's.
I think Tennessee kind of went oh, all right, well. That was fun.
Hated that match. I was talking about that with my dad on the way to Birmingham. Of course, he's a lifelong Vols fan, so he was kind of asking me, if we get Houston, do we have a shot? And I'm like, don't love it. Don't love it. They kind of, you kind of have to be a little more creative offensively to score on that Houston team. You can't just be running floppy action, which is the same type of offense the Magic used to get three-point shooters open in 2008 to try to get good looks against Houston. They're too long. They're too athletic. They're too smart defensively. They can switch everything if they wanted to, but they don't because they're all elite defenders at every position. Loves Zakai Ziegler as much as the next guy, and an appreciator of what that guy has done for the SEC in basketball. Because, I mean, we will never see a 5'9" player win SEC Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row. We will never see that. But you know what? Offensively, when he has to face against Milos Uzan, who's about 8 inches taller maybe, and is almost equally a good defender, yeah.
It's a big ask.
It's a big ask.
Yeah.
It's a big ask to beat that Houston team. This Houston team's kind of almost flown under the radar considering how good Auburn and Duke have been this year, but they are equally as good.
What Duke did to Bama, because we know how good Bama is, and I mean, Duke just seems to, I don't know which of these teams is better than the others. I don't know. That Duke-Houston game has the potential, though, to be the maybe game of the season. Yeah. You know?
And Duke just didn't let them do it.
No.
Straight up. I mean, you talk about like a fun defensive team to watch. Duke, I mean, like if you sit down and think about it, and you're like, man, how is Duke so good this year?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, the entire starting lineup is 6'6" or taller.
Yeah.
They're all elite defenders.
Yeah.
They switch every ball screen.
Yeah.
You try scoring against that. It doesn't happen, even with some of your best offensive teams. That in Alabama was due for a massive regression.
It was time.
Because you're not going to hit 25 threes against a team like that.
Gamecock basketball has some good news. Trayson Eaglestaff of North Dakota is coming down. He actually scored 40 points on Alabama earlier this season. He's a 6'6" shooting guard.
Love a big guard.
And has committed to Lamont Paris's ball club over Kentucky, Kansas, and Gonzaga.
Tells you exactly how good people think this kid is.
According to Wes Mitchell's reporting on this, the folks at On3 have him as the number 8 shooting guard in the portal, number 33 overall, and that's out of more than 1,000 players that are in the portal, so top 3%er coming in. And, a big kid, a scorer, so he's only got 1 year.
Makes almost 38% of his three-pointers beyond the break.
Yeah. And then, is it Christ? Is that how I say his name?
Christ.
Christ? Okay. I guess it's a French pronunciation.
Christ. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it's French. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but anyway, Essendoko, Christ Essendoko, coming to South Carolina from Providence. He's a big, do we call him a 4, I guess, or maybe a hybrid 4?
Maybe a hybrid 4, stretch 4, maybe.
Okay. But he's been in the Big East, and he's got a couple of years left. So there you go. And there's interest in a few others. We'll get you some updates on that. Come back on the other side with a little bit more on what's going on with the Atlanta Braves.
They play baseball.
Well, they have baseball uniforms, and they hold bats and gloves.
Not convinced they brought their bats to San Diego.
They did. I saw them holding them.
Were they real bats?
Speaking of bats, if you'd like to go to Carolina and PC tomorrow night, let's go ahead and do this right now.
Let's go and knock it off, yeah.
Callers 5 and 6, 803-404-6100. 803-404-6100. You do need a valid email address.
Please.
It helps out a lot.
If you want the tickets, you will receive them by email. So if you don't have a valid email address,
it's going to be a lot harder.
You might be out of luck.
A lot harder. Then have to go to caller 7. But if you'd like to go, 803-404-6100. Callers 5 and 6, a pair each to tomorrow's game against the Blue Hose. You're listening to the Postgame Show. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock here on a Monday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Reminder coming up at 5:15. Gamecock baseball coach Paul Mainieri. South Carolina now losers of 7 straight ball games. Swept at Arkansas. Lost in the midweek up in Charlotte to North Carolina. And swept at home this weekend by Tennessee. The PC Blue Hose in town tomorrow night. One other piece real quick before I get to a little bit on the Braves. A move that the Braves made before they hit well, I guess they're technically already in Los Angeles for tonight's game. But this morning on Peter Burns' show on the SEC Network, Lamont Paris, I don't know if this was an accusation or just exactly how he presented it, but he claimed that he is certain that one of the SEC schools that made the NCAA tournament, that's 1 out of 14, so I don't know which one that is. You want to throw a dart at a board.
Tough to narrow down this year.
Was prepared to offer Colin Murray-Boyles $2.5 million to transfer to them.
Sounds about right.
And he wasn't in the portal.
You telling me tampering happens?
Well,
I'm stunned. Would never guess.
He said on the show, I think, one, is there any teeth to any potential repercussions for doing that? Probably not. Is it provable? Would we have to subpoena records to say the phone call happened at this time? I don't think it's enforceable.
Nope, it is not.
And that's the thing. Look, as we've talked about before, whether we're say it like we're kidding or we're being serious, it isn't, and I'm not going to say a coach name because I don't want to make anybody think I think it's this coach. So I'll just say when, it isn't like head coach at Big State U calls the player directly. Hey, player, it's me, coach from Big State U. What's up? How about $2.5 million to come play for me? You got it, Skip. And off they go. You just have, an intermediary call an intermediary who might call a third intermediary and make things happen. And just try to glean some form of information from calls like that.
Like, is it illegal for the kid's former assistant high school basketball coach to call somebody at another school and be like, hey, what does your kid think of that town you live in?
Yeah.
Or,
well, And that's what it is. That's what it is. And I mean, this has been going on since we've had forms of communication, and it will continue in whatever form of communication we have. So, back in the day, somebody telegraphing somebody else,
Morse code has been used for tampering. I can imagine.
And then the telephone. Maybe even like a homing pigeon. I don't know.
I've seen Harry Potter. I've seen what those owls do. They deliver messages all the time.
But tampering and back channel communicating has been a thing. So sometimes we're creatures of the moment and recency bias and all that kind of stuff. I get it. If you can prove who it is, then you might want to take that opportunity, at least maybe present it to the conference office and let them do with it what they will.
Like, remember when, Caden Proctor hit the portal after Nick Saban retired, and then he committed to Iowa before ultimately boomeranging back to Alabama, and Alabama accused Iowa of tampering because an assistant coach that recruited Caden Proctor told him to keep his head up after he struggled for 4 games?
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that, I guess, is provable, but most teams that are in the dark arts of tampering don't move that way for that reason.
Atlanta Braves were swept in San Diego this weekend. They're 0-4. They're in last place in the National League East. The good news is there's still 158 baseball games to play. Well, if I can call it good news. The Braves have also activated Jesse Chavez. You'd think he's 76 years old. He's not. He's only 41. They have optioned reliever Hector Neris, who was poor this weekend. I'll just say it like that.
It's a good way of putting it.
Thank you.
Well, it's,
trying to be nice.
Not his best.
Not even close, my man.
Whatever his best looks like, that's not it. I just know that wasn't it.
This was not it. Opening day, I'm like, bro,
you're not supposed to throw it right down the middle. That ain't how it works. It wasn't good. Chavez was pretty good last year, man. 2-2 with a 3.13 in 46 appearances. So it's better than what Hector Neris was. I don't even want to know what Hector Neris's ERA is for the season.
Infinite.
1,000. Hour 2 coming up.
4 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios, downtown Columbia. The name of this song is I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea. I don't blame you, Elvis Costello. I wouldn't either. If.
What if they paid you a lot of money?
Nope.
Like a lot of people
Nope.
do to get to Chelsea.
Nope. Wouldn't do it. Well, how much money are we talking about?
Let's say $50 million for a year.
Okay, yeah, I'll probably go. But I won't play well.
I wouldn't either. I'm too out of shape.
Elijah already knows the answer, but I told y'all the Braves have called up Jesse Chavez, age 41, turns 42 later this year. Duh.
That's how time works.
And, well, usually. And have optioned Hector Neris from the staff. I want y'all to think for a minute. I know it's early. All right, but like, what's a bad ERA? Even in a small sample size, like, what's a bad ERA? So just go ahead, just process that for a second. I wish I had now waited,
So I can
because as soon as I hit the break, I was like, I got to go see what his actual ERA is, because I knew it was going to be a bad. Hector Neris's ERA is 45. 45.
just on pace to give up 5 an inning.
The rest of the Braves pitching staff ERA is 3.48, which is actually good.
They don't call him the anchor for nothing.
5
No one calls him that. I don't.
earned runs in his 1 inning of work. That's terrible.
Not good,
That's terrible.
especially when you're trying to close out a game.
Yeah, and your team has a lead, and you promptly give up a home run, and then you put more dudes on base, and then they also come around to score. 5 earned runs.
Season's over.
Not good. And, you go to L.A., who all they've done is win every game they've played. So if the Braves are the second, the Braves had the second best odds to win the World Series. Dodgers were first. I imagine the bookmakers are now scrambling on that one. Probably put the Dodgers
Maybe.
1, Yankees 2.
They're like, oh, the Yankees have what bats now?
The torpedo bat.
All the way up.
I'd like to know. Okay, hear me out, because I think I can liken this to the tush push in football. Everybody can use these bats.
Yeah, it's perfectly legal by MLB standards and guidelines.
My question would be, why aren't you? If they really are, it can't just be the Yankees, right? I mean, I know the Yankees are good. The Yankees, by the way, became the first team, is it right? The first team in the history of baseball to hit home runs on the first 3 pitches of a baseball game?
And it helps when you do it against a guy who was pitching for your team last year.
But everybody can go use them. That's why I asked you a little bit ago, like, how long before everybody's using these? And I would have to think you may as well. Like, everybody's gonna.
Yeah, because it's legal.
Either
it's legal, and
that,
clearly it helps.
and you're not going to outlaw it. Like, you can't outlaw it during the year.
Nope.
And if you want to put forth a motion to do that in the off season, but guess what? The season just started.
I think Chef Passan made a really good point on Get Up this morning where he's talking about, like, this is kind of just like a counteract, to the advantages pitchers have. He mentioned that a pitcher can go in a pitching lab and develop a new pitch over a weekend. And a lot of the advantages in baseball go towards pitching.
Yeah.
This is something that can help hitters. That's why everybody's going to do it, right? I mean, everybody's going to eventually adjust. And it's kind of in the same way the tush push. Instead of complaining about it, how about you adjust to it?
Yeah, just adjust.
do
Or
it
start doing it yourself.
Put a tight end behind center and do your own version of it, right? Anybody can do it. Banning it is weak and lame.
It is.
But with the torpedo bats, too, man, they do look goofy. It almost looks like those little wiffle ball bats you get as a kid with the over-enlarged barrel.
Well, I kept hearing it, and so because I didn't see any Yankee highlights, and so when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, all right.
All it took was having a former MIT physicist on the staff.
I mean, it's working. So, yeah, I would like to see everybody use these as soon as possible.
It'd be great for the game. Honestly, the game's better when guys are launching home runs.
Well, that was one of the things about, why owners back in the late 90s kind of turned a blind eye
to steroids. Yeah.
And I will admit, before we knew just how rampant, like when Brady Anderson of the Orioles, who's probably smaller than me, and I'm 5'10", 170, if you're wondering.
An all-time baseball reference page is Brady Anderson's.
It hit 50-something home runs in a season. It's like, what the hell are we doing here?
I mean, Brady Anderson does have, like, if you love a good baseball reference page and you just want to see, like, oh, which year, is the outlier.
The outlier.
I'm going to read you his home run totals for every year of his career. 1, 4, 3, 2, 21, 13, 12, 16, 50, 18, 18, 24, 19, 8, 1. Yeah. Let's do the Sesame Street game. Well, one of these things doesn't belong here. Which one do you think it is?
It's the one where he had 18 because he, no. So, yeah. And the McGuire Sosa thing was fun. It didn't get fun when Barry Bonds got jealous. And then Barry, decided to put, like, body armor on his elbow and lean into every pitch. And,
then hit 73 home runs.
Yeah, I just...
wasn't even his best year.
I'm not. I've made no secret of my disdain for Barry Bonds. But it probably is more because he broke Hank Aaron's record than anything else.
And that he's not known to be a great guy.
No, he's just kind of a tool.
Yeah. Kind of has a reputation as large as his head.
Yeah. And
that man had a melon.
Well, he did. And when you look at him when he was a Pirate, and then you look at him like by year 3 or 4 of San Francisco, you're like, man, what happened there?
Ate a lot of Wheaties.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, flaxseed oil. What did he say? It was flaxseed oil. Oh, my.
Side effects may include making your head as large as a melon.
Ken Griffey, whatever, to get in the Simpsons episode.
Or watermelon.
Ken Griffey drinks, whatever secret potion that Mr. Burns gives him. And it may cause gigantism. The Simpsons were ahead of their time.
They really were on a lot of things.
A lot of things. Yeah. But, like... Junior's just sucking that stuff down, man. And next thing you know,
massive.
I love that episode. I really do. Mattingly, I thought I told you to trim those sideburns. Anyway, Braves have made some moves. Braves are at the Dodgers tonight. Again, Hector Neris is done with a 45 ERA. The Braves, I got to go back to it now. I've already lost it. The Braves have also acquired Stuart Fairchild, which sounds more like a soap opera name. From the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for cash considerations. Fairchild is he's a bench guy, going to hit, I guess, mostly against righties, against lefties, a 786 OPS versus left-handed pitchers last year. So I guess just kind of a bench guy. So
you could have told me Stuart Fairchild. I know who he is because I'm a Reds fan, so I am very aware.
Well, tell me. I mean, I don't know. Is he okay?
Solid. Yeah, solid. Did the Reds well.
Why would the Reds dump him now for cash?
Because they thought he was probably the leading scorer for Johns Hopkins lacrosse team. They saw the name on the roster, and they were like, we really don't need a goal scorer right now, so we can probably cut ties.
Anyway, there you go. All right, I'm trying to smile through the pain, Braves fans.
It's March.
I know.
For now.
But for now. One more day in March. Yeah, they'll play one more game tonight. And I doubt it gets rained out because it never rains in Los Angeles.
Nope. Albert Hammond told me that.
That's right. All right, let's get on to the men's Final Four. It is all set Saturday night around 6, Auburn and Florida, all SEC. Again, only one meeting this year. It was in Auburn. Florida won that game. Houston versus Duke. All ones. Again, only the second time that's happened. 2008 was the first. I picked Duke to win this tournament anyway.
Same.
And I don't have a reason to change my mind.
Nope. If anything, I've grown firmer in my belief over the last couple of days. Like, if you told me before the Sweet 16 game that Caleb Love, like America's most notorious Duke killer, goes off for 35 against Duke, I'm like, oh, wow, he did it again. He absolutely did it again. He killed the Blue Devils once again. One last time for good measure. But then if you tell me that Duke is able to score 100 and it doesn't matter, then I also would still believe you. But that's how good this team is. Even though they're elite defensively. Number one, Ken Palm scoring offense because they have so many options and they just shoot the lights out consistently.
But just how strong Alabama looked to then see Alabama 48 hours later, I don't want to say humbled. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for.
They just almost had the previous scoring outburst cut in
half. I mean, so I guess humbled could be one way to look at it, but that's not Alabama like having an off night. That was Duke.
Yeah,
I mean, Duke just
taking that game
did it to you.
Because it wasn't like they were getting open shots either. I mean, like Duke protected the 3-point line really well, and because they are so big, and because they can just switch every ball screen, which is how Alabama does get a lot of their 3-point looks sometimes. Like BYU went under a lot of those screens early in the game, and it just allowed Alabama to shoot some horse shots for the first half, and they continued that shooting in the second. But not many teams have just the personnel to be able to guard Alabama the way Duke guarded Alabama. And Duke can just do that to everybody. That's the thing. They do that to everyone. They're all elite help defenders. They're all massive, and they can all shoot. They space the floor really well. They have some old dudes that complement what they want to do. Like, this team's built to win the national title. We have 4 great teams in the Final Four right now. Duke is, when I mentioned, this Final Four has 4 teams in the Ken Palm all-time top 10.
Yeah.
Duke's number 2 all-time. This Duke team, second highest net rating ever in the history of Ken Palm's website. Also Duke from 2000, I think it was a 2001, 2002 Duke team. Did not win the title, but that was the number 1 team.
Didn't they win? When did they win? Did they win 02? Who won 02? Or 01? I thought they won one of those.
I think they won the year before.
Year before, they won the 01 title.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, Houston, again, really taking it to Tennessee, but Purdue giving Houston everything they could handle. I imagine that's a lot more about just playing defense.
Yeah. The Purdue thing was interesting because, to beat Houston, you have to have a really good point guard. You have to be able to, and Ziegler's a really good point guard too, but Braden Smith might be the best in America. That guy knows how to run an offense, facilitate it, because what Houston does is what's called just blitzing ball screens, or basically double teaming the ball handler on those. So you got to be decisive. You have to know the next 2 or 3 passes before you have an opportunity to see the next 2 or 3 passes. He does that really well. And I think Purdue had a really good counterpunch to a lot of Houston's, defensive coverages. Mm-hmm. I think that helped them a lot of the game. The last play was a thing of beauty, though. My God, that Houston game winner.
Yeah.
That was sexy.
Now, again, Houston, I told you, I know how good they are and how good they've been. And I'm despite Kelvin, getting in trouble at both Indiana and Oklahoma for the exact same thing. Come on, man.
With a flip phone.
I do like Kelvin Sampson a lot, and I think he's a fantastic coach. And he's got his horses to run the race now, and he has for the last several years at Houston. But I just don't see any reason to waver from Duke.
No,
at this point.
That's the beauty of this thing is like Duke has kind of separated themselves maybe as the favorite, but
Duke beat Auburn. Duke didn't see Florida. Mm-hmm. Does that matter?
I don't think so. They haven't seen Houston either.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Houston also, like, incredible size across the board, minus Cryer. But this is a Houston team that is as good defensively as they've been the last 5 years, which is constantly a top 5 defense. And this year there's a little bit of a wrinkle. They don't have to rely on their offensive rebounding. Still an elite offensive rebounding team. But they also shoot almost 40% from 3, which is insane.
Yeah. It'll be fun. And again, the women's Final Four field will be concluded tonight. Texas versus Texas Christian. That winner gets South Carolina. Tonight, Connecticut and Southern California. That winner will see UCLA on Friday in Tampa. Come back on the other side. The NCAA's Committee on No Fun has ruled on something that would have been fun. We'll tell you what when the postgame show returns. Welcome back into the postgame show here on this Monday afternoon. Got shocker. NCAA No Fun Committee ruling coming up in just a second.
That committee works overtime.
Yeah, well, not surprised. Not surprised. Braves at Dodgers tonight. 10-10.
And you know what?
Tell me.
Based off a stat that I just heard during the break
Yeah.
from a friend Rob, you probably want the Braves to lose because the last time they started 0-4.
Well, they are 0-4, my man.
And they are. So maybe losing will equate to winning.
Okay.
In this instance, because the last time the Braves started 0-4, they won the World Series. That was 2021. I was old enough to remember that.
That's good. So it's not like 1914.
Right. Where you could be like, well, a lot of things have changed since then.
Okay. I'm seriously. I'm not panicking. Really, in only one game did the Braves just play just badly. You know, they got beat 5-0. But they lost 1-0. They lost 4-3. They lost 7-4, and they had some guys on base. And again, the rest of the pitching's been fine.
It do be like that. Baseball be like that sometimes.
So, I mean, I'm disappointed that you play 4 games. I don't care who you play. You got to win one of them.
Yeah, 4-game sweeps.
Yeah, that's very rare. And they just yesterday was just kind of like they were, I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Rob. My head's up. I'm good. And if it gets to like 0-12, then we may have a different story. But I don't think it'll happen.
No, that'd be a little surprising.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay ultimately. Again, it's not officially the NCAA Committee on No Fun. Apparently, it's actually called the FBS Oversight Committee. I'll let you decide what FBS means in certain situations.
I'm going to start using that. If something's FBS, I want to say something's FBS. It don't stand for football subdivision.
Kind of what I was thinking.
Football bowl subdivision. That's good.
But they have, thank you. They've told Colorado and Syracuse that they cannot have a joint practice session next month or play a spring game against one another. They did actually file a waiver request to do so. I'll read here directly from Chris Vanini's report at The Athletic. The waiver was denied largely due to the late timing of the request. The committee, which is largely made up of athletic directors but also includes Illinois coach Brett Bielema, noted that most FBS schools have already scheduled or even ended spring football, and it would give a recruiting advantage to Colorado and Syracuse if other schools were not allowed.
A recruiting advantage?
I don't know how. There were also concerns, wait for it, about the potential academic impact of players missing class.
Because they don't miss class during the season.
Quote from the committee's report. The committee advised the NCAA staff that, for the reasons noted above, it opposed the waiver. The committee agreed to discuss, during a future meeting, a concept that could permit joint spring practices in future seasons. It doesn't say exactly. I mean, look, they got meetings forever. So it doesn't necessarily say like at the next meeting. Oh, I'm perfectly fine with this. Shane Beamer for years has been perfectly fine with this. Again, I think the paranoia of guys like Matt Rule is just off the charts. If you don't think your players are being scouted when they're, playing a game, coach, that you really think you're going to be that. And again,
as if they don't have film on them already.
No, and Matt has and Matt has decided to. I'm serious when I say this. Matt has decided to hold a combine instead. I mean, it's basically a big giant skills competition. Okay, so now you're giving me game film from the fall and a skills competition or a combine in the spring. I have a question.
Yes, Jay Phillips.
When the guys go to Indy in March, are those games?
They are not games.
No, okay. So it's just, but they just kind of stand around. I mean, what do they do? Do they do anything where you could find out what kind of athleticism a lot of those guys have? I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah, I think it's maybe more than just a glorified Skims ad.
Okay.
No, you know,
They
so
run
I
and
just,
jump
in all
and
seriousness, I think that's kind of, again, it's paranoia. You know, whatever. But as I've said many times, in all seriousness, this is the perfect opportunity for wherever you are. If you have an FCS team on your schedule, this is when you play it and you pay them, and you can charge. Look, you're not going to charge $50 for this, but charge $10. And come on out to the ballpark, kids, and have a nice day, and pay the school whatever it is. You're already paying them out of whatever budget anyway, and you're going to make it up when you have a better team come in the fall, and you sell more of those tickets. This is not hard.
Nope.
This is not hard. Now, in the case of what Dion and Fran Brown want to do, then, you know, okay, that's different. I mean, Syracuse won 9 games, Colorado won 9 games. And I'm here for that. Like, if that's what they want to do, that's cool too. Like, I don't care who you play. And you can, you know, and anybody that, again, for the paranoid types out there, especially coaches, again, put the quarterback in a yellow jersey, no punt returns, no kick returns, limited blitzing. I don't know. I mean, there's ways to minimize injury risk. Again, you do not eliminate injuries in the sport of football. You just don't.
You can get hurt in spring practice as well as you can.
Oh, dudes do every year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And again, I've seen injuries in spring games. It's football. It's football. But you can mitigate those things as best you can, while giving your fans and your players an opportunity to do something different. And in the case of your players, letting them go against somebody else and really know, because again, even with spring games, like, look, it's kitschy. A lot of school, I think Carolina does it sometimes. You know, Carolina doesn't go 1s-on-1s and 2s-on-2s. They have like a little draft, but even then, it's kind of hard to figure out, you know, what the continuity looks like, especially with line play or just whatever. And this would give you a chance to go play a game. And again, for Carolina, for Clemson, bring in Furman and State and Wofford and whomever. I guess not Coastal because they're FBS now, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. I get why they said no this time, but when should Fran and Dion have asked?
Right.
January?
And how the hell is it a recruiting advantage?
I don't know.
That's my biggest thing.
I guess they're saying because it'll get a lot of attention. All right.
Yeah, because schools don't do things to get a lot of attention.
Yeah. I mean, you think if I mean, I don't know. I mean, I saw Nebraska. I think I saw that Nebraska invited the president to come out to theirs or something. You know, is that going to get attention?
Yeah. Like, is like that. That's what's so lame about this. And he said Brett Bielema, was he the one that
He's on the committee.
On the committee.
And
so
I don't know if the committee voted unanimously or if Brett was like, "Yeah, do it. I don't care."
Yeah. I mean, whoever pulled out of their rear end to say this is a recruiting advantage is laughable. Because out of all of the reasons to go play at a place, and there are many, even outside of just money, there's a lot of different reasons someone might want to go to a school. Playing another team in the spring is not even in the same stratosphere as other reasons to want to go play at a specific college.
Right.
Have you ever heard a college football player or a high school football player commit to school and say, you know what, the big difference for me, man, was that they play a really cool spring game. The money's fine. Yeah, it's a great location. Yeah, I'm close to home. But if they didn't play somebody else in the spring, man, I just don't think I could do it. Right. No one does that. No one. Absolutely no one.
Craig Bowl is the executive director of the Football Coaches Association. He does feel like this is closer to happening in terms of joint practices in spring. So, if more coaches, but who wants it and who doesn't, coaching-wise? That's just it. Like,
if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it,
if Matt Rule doesn't want a spring game, does he want a joint practice? Would Matt Rule want to have joint practices against, and I wouldn't say, like, Iowa, because they're in their conference, but Iowa State? Kansas State?
There's plenty of schools in that around the area you could do that with.
All right, come back on the other side of the break. Get you caught up on what's going on around the NFL. Speaking of things that aren't fun, NFL's about to outlaw some fun things, or so it would appear. More on that as the postgame show rolls on. Oh, hang on. Our computer's messing up. So I'll just sit here and talk. You want me to sing? I can for a while. Here we go. The Joint Chiropractic Center is ready to help you feel better. They're convenient. They're affordable. Maintain your healthy body. Prevent reoccurring issues when you're just a little stiff. Back, neck, shoulder, joint pain. The folks at The Joint ready to make you feel better. And listen to this. You never need an appointment. You never have to worry about insurance. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Saturdays, 10 until 4. Convenient locations across the Midlands, Harbison Boulevard, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. And if you've never been to a chiropractic center, for just $29, an initial visit gets you a consultation where you can ask questions like, hey, here's what bothers me. What exactly is going to happen here? You get the exam. You get a chiropractic adjustment. Once you're in the system, if you travel for work, for sports, for vacation, there are centers all across the country that can help you out. Remember this, it's real simple. At The Joint, you don't have to feel bad to feel better.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Burning Tree Drive at St. Andrews Road, Dutch Fork Road, Highway 76 at Ralph Schmetz Road, 2 on Hardscrabble Road, one at US 21 near Wilson Boulevard, the other at North Brickyard Road. 2 accidents on Highway 1 at Augusta Road, one at North Grampian Hills Road, the other at Polo Road. I-26 eastbound at I-20 near exit 107B, Killian Road at I-77, Mason Road near Main Street, and on US 321 near I-20.
Talking some off-season football, college and pro. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Headlines of the day coming up, top of the 5. Coach Paul Maneri right after that. Drive around the SEC. We've talked a lot today already about Carolina basketball, both the women's team, of course, making the Final Four. Men's team adding 2 portal additions, 2 very highly rated 4-star portal additions. And more to come on that one, including a kid potentially from in-state. We'll keep an eye on some of those things for you. And talked about the baseball team not getting enough timely hits. Coach Maneri will address more of that with us next hour.
He will. Tough season, or tough series. Well, tough season, too.
Tough season. Series. Yeah, certainly conference play.
It might have been a Freudian slip.
I see what you did there. And we've talked men's Final Four. There's a lot going on today. A lot going on. But NFL owners meetings are happening down in, I think, Palm Beach. I know it's in Florida. I think it's Palm Beach, somewhere down that way. Some fancy schmancy place.
Well, someplace with a beach, I can imagine.
Yeah, where all their yachts can, dock.
Yes. All of them can. Right next to each other. It's really cute.
Sure. Just move people out. Like, hey, but my boat's here. I paid for this slip.
It's Shad Khan's now. Sorry.
Anyway, by the way, I want to get to this first. Woody Johnson, the owner of the it is Palm Beach, by the way. They're in Palm Beach.
Okay. Confirmed.
Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, has called the NFLPA's annual survey totally bogus.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Because his team didn't do very well in it.
Let me just get this.
Maybe you're a bad boss.
This is from, maybe. This is from Rich Cimini of ESPN. He said Johnson, speaking earlier today, took issue with, quote, how they collected the information and who they collected it from. It was supposed to be according to the agreement we have with the league. It's supposed to be a process where we have representatives and they have representatives, so we know that it's an honest survey. And that was violated, in my opinion. I'm going to leave it at that, but I think there are a lot of owners that looked at that survey and said, this is not fair. It's not balanced. Oh. It's not every player. It's not even representative of the players. The Jets, by the way, in overall ranking, 11 different categories, was 29th of the 32 teams in the league.
I think that's maybe has more to do with why he doesn't like the survey.
Yeah. I mean, you got a bad environment. You don't know what you're doing. You're a meddlesome owner.
Like, good luck convincing me this wasn't a survey done in good faith when you're the one who has the story out about letting your teenage boys walk through the locker room, talking junk to players,
or make decisions based on Madden ratings.
Yeah, like that. Don't blame the surveyor's fault for your shortcomings, sir. Well, as an owner,
and hey, Woody, point to the evidence throughout your quarter century of ownership that tells us, no. That was an outlier.
People love it here.
Anyway, nothing official as of yet when it comes to the NFL's vote on the tush push, but it is more likely than not that this is going to be outlawed. And I saw a story earlier, and I won't bore you with the legalese of the rule, but the NFL could be setting itself up for different types of rule interpretations when they're trying to specifically outlaw this. I even saw one person basically saying, well, what happens if a tailback ends up running into the back of a fullback who has the ball, or a quarterback on a quarterback sneak? Is that a push? They're trying to say that it's a certain specific type of how a play line. I'm like, well, man, let's give the refs even more to do. Right. And you're not going to hire a sky judge to watch these kinds of things. So the first time that a flag is thrown on a quarterback sneak because a running back came up behind a quarterback, what are we going to do? Like, that's basically the question.
You're going to wipe the play out?
It's a great question. Yeah, it should technically be illegal procedure or some such. I guess that's what you would call there, right?
Yeah. Illegal formation.
The illegal formation, but I mean, again, to those who are just jealous of the Eagles, and again, it's crazy that Sean McDermott of the Bills is one of the people trying to go against this and talked about injury when the NFL itself said we have 0 plays of where this has occurred having led to injury. None. We don't have a record of an injury on this play. And they track everything. The NFL, trust me, I mean, they track multiple things per snap.
Everything.
And then they give the data to the league. Like, the league is responsible for the dissemination of so much data. Teams can do whatever they want too, but the league puts out tons of stuff. And so they know when this happens, nobody's gotten hurt. I'm not even sure. I mean, if anything, I feel like this is less of a risk because, yes, it's a bunch of big, giant body, but it's like a scrum.
Yeah. Like a rugby scrum.
So, injury seems to occur typically when large grown men are flying at large grown men running 4.5s. And they all weigh more than 200 pounds. And the collision.
Full speed.
Yeah. And the collision is, jarring. Not when big 300-pounders are just like sumo.
Like you're going to start, outlawing because of safety a slant across the middle? No.
Yeah, no.
That's more dangerous than.
And again, we've talked
push.
about the kick. Now they want more kick returns. Well, the rate of concussion is down. The number was the exact same, but the rate of them is down. So now we want to have more collisions so the rate can go up because it's safer. Wink, wink. Like, no, you can't have it both ways, NFL.
It just is that the combination of all those arguments of bringing more kickoffs, but banning a play because it's not safe, despite any empirical evidence to suggest that it's not safe, only makes it very clear that the Packers and Sean McDermott's intentions with wanting this banned is completely disingenuous.
Yeah. Come back on the other side. A few more things. One other big rule that is going to get voted on that looks like it will not pass. And what did Truck Stop Jimmy say about signing Deshaun? We'll let you know when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour. Again, coming up top of the hour, headlines of the day. A lot to get to locally. Lots of Gamecock news to discuss. So we'll be having that for you coming up in just a little bit. And then as soon as we're done with the headlines, Paul Maneri will join Elijah and me for his regular Monday visit. A couple of more NFL offseason moves. First, we told you, tush push feels like it's going to be outlawed. These votes have not yet taken place. Any of these votes need 24 teams to vote. I'd say 24 owners, but remember the Green Bay Packers don't have an owner, but they do have a vote. You ever wondered seriously for just a second, and we could probably really go a long way on this, how often do whoever the team president of the Packers is, how much pressure might they feel when they are probably, I mean, it's the Packers.
Right.
So, they wield influence because they have such a gigantic fan base, not just in Wisconsin. I mean, that's a true...
It's a legacy franchise for the entire sport.
Yeah, and it's a national fan base. But, and I don't mean this is going to sound harsh, but I don't mean it to. But, you got somebody running the team that makes, $5 million a year. And here's a bunch of owners that make $5 million, a week. Going like, hey, buddy, don't you vote against us now. No, don't be that deciding vote. Yeah, we can call Raj and get you replaced. Like, I wonder if that ever happens.
Oh, it has to. NFL owners are bullies.
Yeah.
I think more of them, more often than not, bullies.
I wish
they want to pick on somebody they think they have control over.
I like what happens with the Packers, but my concern is that it's somewhat artificial. It's not the same, and I think you and I have discussed this in some ways a few times. It's not the same as like Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich, where those three clubs are literally owned by the members of the club.
Mm.
It's almost like Augusta National is more what Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern are. Like you buy it, you're a member, and they got thousands, but they get to vote on who the president of the team is, and
that's why they don't call it fake Madrid.
But like with and they, you don't make any money off of it, but you do have a say. Anybody that has a share, wink, wink, of the Packers, it's like buying a souvenir. Nothing comes. You get zero say in anything. You make no money at all. It would almost be nice if you could take those shareholders, value the team, and then have Bezos or somebody come in and buy it. If only to prevent things like that. I don't know. And I'm not sitting here trying to be like a conspiracy theorist.
You're trying to sell the Packers?
Well, I'm not trying to, but who really runs the Packers? I don't know if it's always someone in an office in Green Bay, is all I'm saying. And what's the undue influence from time to time, potentially, on the Packers? Anyway, speaking of the Packers, the Lions are in their division. The Lions are the club that put forth the proposition to change playoff seeding. They don't want to do it solely by record. If you win your division, the Lions' plan would still have you in the postseason. But if your record wasn't as good as a wild card team, then you might not get a home game. And in theory, I like their proposal. But in practice, I just don't see enough owners voting to change what we currently have, if only because one day, and you and I have discussed this, Elijah, on and off air, one day an owner might say, that could be me. Mm-hmm. That could be my team.
You have enough small markets that are probably never, I don't say never, because the NFL parity can be kind of engineered, but most of the time, your Jacksonville Jaguars,
I said the
Houston
NFC,
Texans,
the two Souths.
Yeah.
The two Souths, those 8 clubs, zero reason to vote for this.
Yeah, because you want to host a playoff game.
And then just handpick a couple more.
Yeah. So many small to mid-market teams in this league greatly benefit from being able to host a playoff game. They benefit from that financially. So
well,
there's
something
no way
to play for. And
yeah.
And I heard Florio talking about this, Mike Florio on PFT. you might have to change the scheduling format at that point in time. Like, what would be the point of playing each other twice if winning the division is no longer as important? If you're not going to get a home game, I mean, that's one of the that's what you're playing for.
And they would never change the schedule.
No, they're not going to do that. And again, even you know what? And I'm serious when I say this. Like, some of the divisions would be like, I don't care. Again, the two Souths. If you really told each of the teams in the South, hey, you're not going to play them twice a year anymore, they'd be like, okay.
I don't know, man. Yeah, there's a lot. That's where all the rivalries are.
But like the East, like NFC East, like try that. Hey, y'all aren't going to have home and homes anymore. Like, you'd get a revolt.
Yeah, hey, Cowboy fans, you don't play the Eagles and Giants.
Yeah, or say Eagles, you won't play Washington.
Yeah.
New York, you won't play Philly twice.
Yeah, good luck.
The hell we won't. Pitchforks and rotten tomatoes in the streets, man.
Yeah. Get nasty.
So again, I like the idea and I get the concept. I do. When you, especially last year, when in Detroit's own division, you had 3 teams make it and they all won double-digit games.
And a 14-3 team had to play.
Yeah, had to play a road game as a wild card. And Green Bay was good as an 11-win team.
Yeah, and also with, I think, a better record than the NFC South winner.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and so, but I don't think that one's going to pass. I will come back around to Jimmy Haslam talking about Deshaun, but I'll just let y'all know it's pretty much what you think he'd say.
You think he has regrets?
Regrets. No regrets.
Not even a single letter.
Headlines of today. Lots of Gamecock news to discuss when the post-game show returns. And let me tell you about our good friends at AAA Heating and Air. Cranked up the AC the other day because, you know, it's about that time, right? Might still have a few chilly nights, but beyond that, we're going to get days in the 80s, and it'll be creeping up there real soon. If your AC system hasn't been checked in a while, if you were like, I don't even know when I've had it inspected. And I also remember last year it made a lot of noise. Or, man, I got my Dominion bill the other day, and should it be this much for my HVAC? Well, it might be time to get something new, all right? Call Roy and Dana Finley and the crew, 803-677-1500. Take advantage of a brand-new system offer that includes guaranteed financing, a $1,500 system buyback rebate, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, all right? And no payments or interest for a full year. Think about that, all right? Then call 803-677-1500. Whether it's something brand new, a quick inspection, a quick repair, do what I've done, Bill Gunner, and many of your friends and neighbors. Stay comfortable with AAA Heating and Air.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to are causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Burning Tree Drive at St. Andrews Road, Dutch Fork Road, Highway 76 at Rouch Metz Road, Hard Scrabble Road at US 21 and Wilson Boulevard, Hazelwood Road at Garner's Ferry Road, I-26 eastbound at I-20 near exit 107B, Killian Road at I-77, Mason Road near Main Street, Old Lexington Highway near Heimatsweg Road. I botched that. And lastly, on US 321 near I-20.
It is 5 o'clock news time here on a Monday afternoon. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Remind you, coming up in about 15 minutes, Gamecock baseball coach Paul Maneri will join Elijah and me to discuss what happened against Tennessee and look ahead to this week, including tomorrow night's game with PC. But we'll start with South Carolina women's basketball. Congratulations to Dawn Staley's ball club. 5th consecutive trip to the Final Four secured in Birmingham after two really, certainly for the neutral observer, two really entertaining ball games. Yesterday, definitely an ugly rock fight kind of a game. Won't deny that in any way, shape, or form, but that's what Duke wanted. I want to tip my cap to both Maryland and Duke for the way they played against South Carolina. I thought Brenda Freese's team on Friday afternoon also had a good game plan, played hard. South Carolina just better. Yesterday, Kara Lawson's Blue Devils, who Carolina had already seen, played hard. Carolina just a little bit better. There's really not much else you can say. I think that's the way it was. And Elijah, you were there. Certainly some tense moments for South Carolina after, being, down by 4, 8-0 run to go up by 4. Duke ties it again. And, even some, when Chloe missed her 2 free throws late, you're like, man, Duke has a chance here. And they did have a shot to take a lead with less than 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, it got really dramatic. And I had even put, in my notes, I keep a running notepad during the game of just things that I observe. And after those 2 missed free throws from Chloe, I was like, maybe maybe they're in more danger than I'd like to give them credit for, because that's the kind of stuff that happens in upsets where you like uncharacteristic stuff starts happening. You're getting killed on the offensive glass. Like Duke grabbed 19 offensive rebounds, and at one point in the game, grabbed over half their missed shots. About relatively deep into the second half, they were at an offensive rebound rate of well over 50%, which is definitely a good formula to lose a game you shouldn't lose. And it kind of felt that way. But then Chloe, as she's done a couple times this year, including the first meeting against Duke this year, kind of took over the game. I think, the biggest reason you won this game on offense is because Chloe was able to draw 8 fouls.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Drawing 8 fouls in the amount of time she played, which pulling up the official numbers here, she did play 33 minutes. So 8 fouls in 33 minutes. Mighty, mighty impressive. But she was able to get it done down the stretch. You needed a bucket, you went to either Sanaya Fagan or Chloe Kitts, and Chloe was able to do it at the free throw line pretty well. I mean, she shot half the team's free throws. And a lot of that was in the second half.
What message is sent, directly or indirectly, by all 5 South Carolina starters playing more than 30 minutes each? That is not the norm for this team.
That's not been what this team's relied on to win a lot of games. They've had the number 1 bench scoring team in the nation, and for the first time that I've noticed this year, they got outscored on the bench. Well, Duke's bench outscored their bench 24-9.
I mean, South Carolina's bench scoring 9 points is almost unfathomable.
Is astonishing.
Yeah.
Considering how good Joyce, Malaysia, and Tessa have been scoring off the bench this year. and you didn't get that. Lay had 5, Joyce had 4, Tessa didn't score. I mean, that's you don't see that.
And those 3 were a combined 4 for 14.
And Tessa only played 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Joyce played 15. Malaysia played 11. Like they did not do as much scoring as this team has kind of seen them do this year. But in tournament time, if your star bench players who would start anywhere in the country, and comprised of freshmen and sophomores, if they are kind of hitting a wall, or you get to the point of the season where they're just maybe not playing their absolute best at that moment, you need your seniors to step up. You need your juniors, junior Chloe Kitt, senior Sanaya Fagan, senior Raven Johnson, who had a pretty big steal late in that game as well. Bree Hall, who got that rebound on that missed shot from Duke that would have given them the lead if it were to have gone in, senior. Like this group has gone, the senior class specifically, is going to their 4th Final Four.
Right.
They have won 2 national championships.
Right.
I think being able to rely on those players is an advantage that South Carolina has that no other team in the field has.
Dawn Staley, a couple cuts here from Coach. First, on what her ball club had to do against a very stingy Duke defense.
I think they were very effective. I thought that I thought they forced us into taking some bad shots that almost ended our season, really, especially in the first half. And then the second half, I thought we tried to get the ball where it needed to go. Sometimes it disrupted that, but at the end of the day, I thought when we had to make plays off of broken sets, we did it in the fourth quarter. And I think that was the difference between them coming back and building the lead and us bearing down and making sure we win those broken play battles.
And one more here from Dawn. She was asked, same post-game presser yesterday afternoon, do you, Coach, feel like your team is a national champion?
Look, I mean, at this point, it's not going to look pretty. Okay, it's not. There are stretches in each game that is not going to look pretty. If you watch all the games, maybe the score at the end of a UConn game is not indicative of how it looked in the first 2 quarters. So some of it's not going to look as smoothly as us coaches and players envision or how we practice. But you certainly have to get down and play the kind of game that's presented in front of you, and we'll do that. If we're not scoring a whole lot of points, then we got to up our defense. If we're scoring a whole lot of points, we got to up our defense. So it is that type of year that, for us, it's not any blowouts. We have to grind for every single win that we can get and manufacture.
Gamecocks don't yet know who they'll play or when they'll play, other than Friday down in Tampa. Could be around 6, could be around 9. TCU, Texas play tonight in Birmingham. That winner will see South Carolina tonight out in Spokane. It's Southern California against Connecticut. So we got 1-2 matchups in. Did we have 1-2s in every region? We did, didn't we?
I think so. Duke.
LSU was the 2, right?
LSU was the 3.
Actually. Oh, were they a 3?
They were the 3.
Okay, so they're the outlier then. But we got 1-2 Carolina Duke and 1-2s tonight. But again, Carolina will see someone on Friday that they have beaten this season.
And
not just played, but beaten.
And then on the other side of it, let's see, UCLA's already in, and if UConn beats Southern Cal, it's 2 teams that you have lost.
Lost to, and not just lost, but they beat you.
Handled.
They beat you.
Yeah. So that's juicy storyline.
Yeah. All right, we're here for the story. But you're heading down there, yeah?
I am.
Good.
Yeah, probably going to leave super early Thursday.
Okay.
That's kind of, I guess, the rough plan.
Flying?
Oh, we driving, baby.
Oh, no. Yeah, I told you got to go to that Tampa airport. It's an awesome airport.
See, that's the one way that I would do it. This is the only drivable Final Four for a while because next year it's in Phoenix.
Ooh, Phoenix's airport is also very cool. Sky Harbor? Yeah. It's fun.
One of my best friends lives out there, so I was like, hey, dude, I just now found out that next year's Final Four is in Phoenix.
Well, there you go.
Might get a visit from your boy.
Gamecock men's basketball has some good transfer news. First off, Christ Isendoko, who played, he's from France, played some prep ball up in Winston-Salem, is coming to South Carolina from Providence. A 4-star portal recruit is Christ. He's a big. Let's see. I don't have his. Where are his vitals, Elijah? I had them earlier, and now
His vitals. You want his heart rate right now?
no, just how big he is.
You're trying to find out.
He's real tall. He's a 4, so he's real tall. I don't have that in front. Oh, 6'11", here we go. 6'11", 250. There you go. There you go. Thank you. So that's one, and the other is a young man from North Dakota. His name is Trayson Eaglestaff. He's a shooting guard. Last year for North Dakota, rounding up here, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists per game. He chose Carolina over Kentucky, Kansas, and Gonzaga.
One of the more highly coveted scorers in this.
Like to think that's a real good get right there.
Yeah, 6'6" guard who's almost a 40% three-point shooter, and he's one of those guys, a 3-level scorer, man. That's a really good get.
Isendoko, by the way, I didn't remember this, and I will tell you I don't follow tons of basketball recruiting. He actually came to South Carolina when he was in high school while Frank Martin was still coaching and visited here. So he said he was already familiar. And then when Lamont and the crew reached out, he said, you know what? Yeah, I think I would like to go back down there and see what's up. And then he committed while he was here. So there you go.
Pretty cool.
All right. More portal recruiting news will be coming in the next few weeks, I assure you.
Yeah, portal recruiting news is kind of like drinking water through a fire hose.
That's right. South Carolina has a new head volleyball coach, and she is one of the best to ever play in the Southeastern Conference. Sarah Roomley Noble, a former SEC Player of the Year and an All-American at Kentucky, will become the 12th volleyball coach at South Carolina. She spent the last 3 years as head coach at Appalachian State. And after her playing career, she spent several seasons coaching as an assistant in the Southeastern Conference, including at LSU. She says, quote, I'm humbled and excited to be the next leader of South Carolina volleyball. I want to thank Jeremiah Donati, Aaron Abbey, and the rest of the search committee for believing in my vision and entrusting me with this program. The energy in the athletic department is evident. I can't wait to meet Gamecock Nation. I look forward to getting to work and creating a culture of excellence in all aspects of this program. So congratulations to Sarah Roomley Noble, again, an SEC Hall of Fame player at Kentucky. And I guess this is the first big-time hire for Jeremiah Donati. He's had some contract extension notes, but this is the first hire.
But not the identifying and selecting of a head coach.
So there you go. She's got a good track record. Let's see. Finally, a couple of quick things here in our integrated media headlines of the day. Stanford today hired Frank Reich as their interim coach, and that's all it's going to be by what he and Andrew Luck have said. Reich, of course, coached Andrew Luck in Indianapolis for a season. According to the AP report and what Pete Thamel is reporting, both sides agreed. That's it. It's 1 year. He's coming in as a placeholder. Stanford, it says, according to Thamel, will launch a national search at the end of the 2025 season. But you've got to think, Elijah, that process is already underway.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guarantee you it is. They're not going to drag their feet on that.
Go ahead and start quietly gauging interest in who wants that job. And it's
identifying your candidates.
It's not a unique job, but it's specialized.
Oh, certainly. It will take a special type of coach who identifies players with certain academic traits, and honestly, finding players that are going to fit a style of play that everybody's on board with and has a good at least a good track record of winning at maybe a lower level.
I got one name I want to throw at you, and I know a lot of things are going on in his program right now that are good, but would a guy like Clark Lee leave Vanderbilt for Stanford?
No.
You don't think so?
Because for the first time in the history of Vanderbilt's athletic department,
got him going somewhere.
They're going somewhere and they're spending the money. Yeah. Vanderbilt's spending.
Just wonder if the path out of Palo Alto into something bigger is just a little easier to navigate.
Now, let's say if Clark Lee was originally born, raised in, San Francisco. Yeah,
sure.
But it does help that Vandy locked him down as somebody who is from Nashville, high school there, played at Vanderbilt. Yeah. I think he's pretty firmly set at Vanderbilt. He might end up having that job as long as he wants it.
I don't disagree. I'm just, there's somebody, because again, you just
That
got to
prototype, that someone who is successful at that level.
And when you come out of the Notre Dame program, it's got to be the same thing too. Notre Dame has to identify players with a higher academic reputation. They just don't have a choice.
Does Stanford thoroughly vet Pat Fitzgerald?
I don't. Maybe. They got a new stadium too.
They did, but Fitzgerald's not going back to North or Northwestern.
Yeah. I don't think they would.
I don't think they would.
'Cause-
That's some real baggage.
Yeah, that was
Stanford does like to shy away from baggage.
And I think they
considering
just
fired a coach.
they just
who
had
also-
baggage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just had it.
That's our integrated media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327 for your home theater, home technology needs, and so much more. Call my great friends at Integrated Media. Coach Paul Maneri on the other side talking Carolina baseball. It's the Postgame Show. Hey, welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Monday. Jay and Elijah with you. Y'all be careful out there. Some spots still getting some rain. Had some in downtown Columbia a little bit earlier. Elijah will have another traffic update for you coming in just a bit. But as you're leaving the office this afternoon, again, do be careful in certain spots across the Midlands and a little bit east of us. Always a pleasure to welcome onto the program the head baseball coach of the University of South Carolina. He is Paul Maneri. Coach, thank you. Always good to talk with you. You mentioned the word disappointing in terms of this weekend's performance. Not discouraging, but disappointing. Your guys are getting on base, and there are encouraging signs for what you can do. I'm curious from your veteran perspective as to where you're finding ways to find those silver linings while at the same time really trying to light certain fires under your guys to finish the jobs.
Well, you have to be realistic about some things. We don't have a team with a lot of home run power. It's just where we are. We have a couple of home run hitters, but not a lot. And when you don't have a lot of home run hitters, you have to count on your team being a scrappy, gritty, hard-nosed, give you a legitimate at bat, up there battling the pitcher. And we've done that, a bit. We haven't done it on a consistent basis. Sunday, we had two different RBI hits, but you're not going to beat a team like Tennessee by scoring 2 runs in a game. The day before, we had a lot of gritty at-bats, so, a lot of really good at-bats and put ourselves in a position to win the game with a lead there in the 8th inning and just couldn't hold them off, and they ended up taking the lead. But then we fought back and tied the game and had a chance to take the lead, and, Tennessee turned an unbelievable 3-6-3 double play on us there and kept us from scoring, and then of course hit a home run in the 9th inning to take the lead again, and we couldn't rally on that. But when you don't hit the ball out of the ballpark, sometimes bad things happen, bad luck happens. You hit balls hard right at people, you hit into double plays, and those are the things that have really hurt us the last couple of weeks. All you can do is just keep encouraging your guys and keep having them, up there battling as hard as they can. And, the two teams we played the last 2 weekends are probably the 2 best teams in the country. And right now there's a little bit of a separation between them and us. I have to admit that. But when I say I'm disappointed we couldn't, pull off a couple of wins. We had a chance to win Saturday's game. Last week we had a chance to win Sunday's game, and tough against tough teams, and we just couldn't finish the job. So that's why I say disappointed, but I'm not discouraged. I'm not discouraged because I feel like our kids are working really hard. They're really competing. They're disappointed with the final results over these last couple of weeks. But we've got a lot of season ahead of us, and the kids are going to keep their chins up and keep battling and see if we can't turn the second half of the season around and end up with a decent season. It won't be by the standards that we'll continue to measure ourselves in future years, but nobody's given up on our team. We're going to keep battling hard, and sometimes we have to be a little realistic with where we are, but at times, I think we've shown to be a pretty decent team.
Yeah, I mean, there was even some visible hitting improvement over the weekend, too. I mean, just the hit totals in the 3 games, 13, 11, 10, against the Tennessee pitching staff, which, as we've all noted, pretty darn good. Do you think this weekend probably, at least, I know it can be discouraging. Anytime you get swept, it's discouraging. But do you think for your players that, especially at the plate, even though if you weren't able to get enough runs to win the games, that showed them at least some proof of concept of some of the improvement that they might have made since we started SEC play?
We are in the first 3 weekends of SEC play. I think we have the 5th highest batting average in the league. We're hitting over 300, I think 305 or something like that. But unfortunately, we're 13th in runs scored. So I think that just goes to the point that we've been talking about. We're swinging the bats okay at times. We only struck out 5 times yesterday. Every single batter in our starting lineup had at least 1 hit. Most of them had 1 hit. But when you don't hit the ball out of the ballpark, you have to string those hits together, and you have to get clutch hits. And we had opportunities. We had the bases loaded, nobody out one inning with our 3 and 4 hole hitters coming up. And we had a strikeout and hit into a double play and didn't have anything to show for it. We had a couple of other situations. I know we had one other situation at least where the runner at third and less than 2 outs. The whole infield's playing back except for the third baseman. Where do we hit the ball? Right at the third baseman. So we couldn't score there. And then, even earlier in the game, after we had scored one in the first inning after some consecutive hits, the inning just kind of fizzled out, even though we had the guys up in the middle of the order that we wanted up. So we're just not taking full advantage of the opportunities that we're having. I don't think our kids are backing down. Tennessee is leading the country in earned run average. Their earned run average is 2 runs per game. So it's not like we're facing, some soft throwing pitchers. I mean, everybody that we faced seems to be throwing 97, 98 miles an hour. It's not easy to hit those kind of guys. And Arkansas threw the same kind of arms. Oklahoma's throwing the same kind of arms. I just looked at the RPI actually. We actually have faced the 7th most difficult schedule in the country in all of college baseball. So we have faced some really good arms. And, this is the SEC. That's what you expect to face. And, you've got to be up to the challenge. At times we've been up to the challenge in the sense that we've battled hard and maybe we just couldn't hold the lead at the end of the game. But other times, we haven't been able to get the job done, and we're just going to have to keep staying positive and being up there scratching and clawing and battling as hard as we can. And hopefully, I don't want to say the schedule lightens up because nothing lightens up in the SEC, of course. But we're not going to play any more difficult teams than we played the last 2 weekends, that's for sure.
Talking to Gamecock baseball coach Paul Maneri. PC Blue Hose will be over at Founders Park tomorrow night. You put Matthew Becker back in the rotation. He pitched pretty well. I guess maybe once you got him through the second time against that Vol lineup, they got to him and you pulled him. But your overall assessment of how Matthew did for you yesterday?
Well, the first 3 innings he was outstanding. That was the best breaking ball he's had all year. It was really a good left-handed breaking ball. He struck out some batters, made some really big pitches. He might have been perfect through the first 3 innings. But then, he hit the first batter on the first pitch of the 4th inning, and they got a few hits off of him. And, then, we're down in the lineup a little bit, and he left a changeup over the middle of the plate, and they got a base hit. So, he just kind of, he was great, and then all of a sudden he just started making some pitches that they could handle, and he hurt himself with the hit batter. But it always looks worse when you don't score enough runs, and, the problem is if he runs into a jam and can't get out of the jam and gives up a 3 spot, you feel like you have to make a change to try to hold him right there. And, we did a little bit, but we weren't great out of the bullpen until Sweeney came in. I think over the last 2 2/3 innings, he threw shutout baseball. But, by then, their pitching was so good coming out of the bullpen that we just couldn't do much with it. But I thought Matthew, threw the ball really well, especially those first 3 innings. And even in the 4th inning, he made some good pitches. He just made some pitches, too, that hurt him a little bit. They were able to capitalize on. But, it was very encouraging, I thought, his performance.
And after the game, you kind of mentioned, Presbyterian's going to be like a Game 7, and I feel like that's pretty indicative of the sense of urgency that you guys have to get on that field and get a win. How big is this midweek for you guys?
Yeah, we just need to win a game. We've the last 7 games have been against some of the top teams in the country. You mentioned Arkansas and Tennessee, and then, your midweek game is against North Carolina, who's one of the top teams in the country as well. So, we just need to get out there and win a game. But Presbyterian will not be any walk in the park, I can assure you of that. Of course, I studied them today, and, they're pitching their Friday night guy. Their Friday starters started every Friday up until this past weekend. So, there'll be a challenge there. I'm sure he's their best guy. And, we're going to counter with Tyler Pitzer, who will get his first start of the year, try to get him back on the horse and see if we can't get him pitching well again for us. But we're going to have to battle these guys tomorrow, and nothing to be taken for granted. But obviously, we want to win very badly. I don't care who we're playing against. We need to just get off the schneid and get a win, and hopefully get ourselves a little momentum and some good positive thoughts before heading to Starkville this weekend.
Coach, appreciate the time as always. Good luck tomorrow night and this weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
You bet. That's Gamecock head baseball coach Paul Maneri. We'll recap the entire weekend in SEC baseball when the postgame show returns.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways. Starting with one on Hazelwood Road at Garner's Ferry Road, I-26 westbound over at St. Andrews Road near exit 106, I-77 northbound at Fort Jackson Boulevard near exit 10, Old Lexington Highway, and then we also have one we did have an accident on 26 East over at Broad River Road, but that has since been cleared.
It is Drive Around the SEC Town. I got a few more notes I want to give you all on the Gamecocks, too. You can take these numbers, what's the old saying? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Elijah and I were just going over some of the numbers for Carolina baseball. Some of them, you're like, all right. And then others, you're like, oh. And, yeah, that's why you're 1-8 in conference play. And you got swept by Clemson. And you lost to North Carolina. And, again, I'm not trying to discount the other wins that they have, but there's just a real line of demarcation in terms of the talent that you've played. Mm-hmm. There's no, I don't know, there's just no middle ground almost, it feels like. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can split the season up.
There's no App State in there or something, I don't know, somebody like that, I don't want to say Coastal because Coastal's too good, but, some other types maybe in the Sun Belt, although like Skylar Mead's Troy team is now in the top 20.
Yeah.
Skylar's good, man.
That team's pretty damn good, too.
Anyway, first off, of course, the Final Four is set. Auburn and Florida will play one another this Saturday over in San Antonio, Texas. So the Southeastern Conference will have a representative in the national title game. Those two schools only met once this past season. Florida won at Auburn's gym. But one will advance. SEC had half the Elite Eight, half the Final Four, and they are guaranteed to have half of the title game.
I think they've solidified the best conference we've probably ever seen.
There was a question on PTI that I was just looking at a second ago. Convinced about SEC and Duke? Question mark. Yes.
Yes. The answer to both. Yes. And let's throw Houston in there, too. Yes.
Yeah.
All
sure.
four of these teams.
But I think everybody, I guess people just kind of knew about Houston. And, with the SEC, you and I talked about it before the tournament. I posed the question to you. What's going to be deemed, success, acceptable, and failure? And there were a lot of people pulling for failure. Like, let's just see how overrated they are. Well, they're not, and I'm not here to pump them up. They don't need results speak for themselves. I think one of the, and again, I picked Duke to win this title, but as I watched Duke, dismantle Alabama, who I thought had otherwise been playing pretty darn good basketball, man, I got nothing to change my mind on Duke. But again, Duke played Auburn this year and won. Duke didn't see Florida. So, and that's not me trying to assume Duke is going to win. I need to see the over-under on the Houston-Duke game, by the way, because they can both really defend as well. I'll look it up in a second. But
I can tell you what the Ken Palm one is.
When it comes to Auburn versus Florida, I got to tell you, Elijah, I think Florida's going to win, man. I just think it's not a knock on Auburn. I just think Florida is just playing better basketball.
Over-under for Ken Palm is 134.
Ooh.
They have Duke winning 68-66.
That's low.
57% for Duke.
Should I take that under?
Yeah.
I kind of think so.
I would take that.
I kind of think so.
Yeah, especially in a football. Yeah, the Alamo Dome, still a football stadium. But
yeah, they can play football there, but it's not as big a football stadium as some football stadiums.
Exactly. But back to the Florida Auburn thing. Yeah, I mean, I think Florida firmly is the second best team in America right now. It's mostly in terms of when you get to this stage, I like to judge you by how many different ways can you beat somebody, right? That was my biggest issue with Alabama this year. I didn't think they could beat you in a variety of ways. I think if you turned the water off in terms of their driving lanes to the basket and their pick and roll lob threat to their bigs, and you made them shoot a lot of threes that were contested, more than likely you're going to have a good chance of winning because this Alabama team was about an average three-point shooting team in terms of how many they actually made. Florida can survive a bad shooting night because they get to the rim relentlessly. They are an elite defensive team, and they got a ton of bigs, a ton of size, and they're always offensive rebounding. Duke's the same way.
And they have Walter Clayton.
And they have Walter Clayton. He's like he's one of those players too. Like I call this my 0 for 15 rule. Do you still want the ball in his hands even if he was 0 for 15 from the field? Yes. The answer is yes. Like he's one of those guys. There are plenty of those guys where you're like, oh, he's 0 for 15 from the field.
His game,
bury him on my bench.
His game against Maryland. I don't want to say Maryland should have won that game, but Maryland should have won that game, and Walter Clayton won that game.
Yeah. Like even in the Texas Tech game, Texas Tech was up 10 with like a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
Florida goes on an 8-0 run, and Walter Clayton Jr. scores 6 of those points and assists on the other basket. Like, that's the type of player
he's fun to watch, man.
Like, Florida, to me, it still kind of has a Duke-Florida national championship game feel to it.
I agree.
But, I mean, all 4 of these teams are great teams. That's what
we
makes
got the
it
ones.
so good.
I like it. I like it. I wish...
Historically great ones as well. This is the only tournament in the history, well, since 97, where the teams that were the most efficient during the season all made the Final Four, and all of them had net ratings of over 30, meaning they're outscoring their opponents per 100 possessions throughout the course of a year by at least 30 points.
Yeah, I wish Florida's coach didn't creep me out, but other than that, it's a really good basketball team.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, South Carolina's women, of course, are in, and we could get one more SEC participant tonight. Again, Texas versus Texas Christian. That winner tonight in Birmingham will see South Carolina on Friday. And if you're wondering, we don't know yet what time South Carolina will play either. ESPN is simply waiting to see what the matchups are, and then somebody's going to play first and somebody's going to play a half hour later. That's the best I can
all
tell
we
you.
know.
That's the best I can tell you.
We probably won't know that until the games are over tonight.
Yes, we'll find out. I would imagine they have scenarios ready to go and announce. They just will not announce them until they are final. Meanwhile, baseball results this weekend. Kentucky took 2 of 3 at A&M. Alabama 2 of 3 over Oklahoma. Arkansas gets their first sweep in 30 years in Nashville. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Talk about the regression, the Vanderbilt programs.
Yeah, Vandy and Florida both are really, and Carolina, really struggling.
Lost the fastball.
Georgia sweeps Auburn. Georgia's good. LSU sweeps Mississippi State. State also having a rough go. Texas sweeps at Missouri. And Ole Miss took 2 of 3 from Florida. Looking at the Gamecocks stats, again, I'm not here to go, hey, y'all, everything's fine, because it's not. But a couple numbers to at least, to Paul Maneri's point, try to keep an eye on. Carolina is hitting 303. The conference games only I'm going to give you right now because that's really, and so I don't have the Clemson numbers to blend in with these or the Chapel Hill numbers. But in the 9 conference games, Carolina hitting 303, opponents hitting 310. On base percentage, Carolina 378, opponents 408. So there is some disparity there, but it's not a killer. But here's the killers. Slugging percentage, South Carolina 419, opponents 562. So do the OPS. Carolina 797 in conference play. You want it to be over 800 in college ball. Opponents OPS 970. South Carolina has hit 7 home runs in conference play, and that's 1 each by 7 different players. So that's it. Nobody has multiple home runs yet in conference play. Opponents have hit 21 home runs. South Carolina has drawn 26 walks offensively. Their opponents have drawn 44. So a couple of things there in terms of, taking pitches, making guys work, whether that's approach or whether that's something else. And that's also including Carolina not being able to find the zone a lot. I can't credit everything there with a patient approach from opposing hitters. So there are a couple of like doubles. You talk about more doubles. 11 doubles for Carolina, 14 doubles for their opponents in the 9 conference games. But you got to find ways to bring these guys around, man. You just got to. You're getting guys on base. You are getting guys on base. But then you're killing yourself. Mm-hmm. And that can't continue. But maybe Paul's right. Maybe you really have seen the 2 best teams in America, and you just got to try to flush it as quickly as possible. We'll see. That's the drive around the SEC. Couple more notes from the NFL owners' meetings when the postgame show returns. Welcome back. Final few minutes of the program here on a Monday and the final day of March 2025. We're zipping right along, kids. Does that mean we're like basically a quarter of the way through? Is that how that works?
Sounds about right.
Give or take?
I'll run with it.
I don't know how much. I don't do math. That sounds good.
Yeah. 3 plus 3?
All right.
6, I think.
3. Yeah. Good call, man. Look at you.
And then 6 times 2, 12.
Listen, I don't know. I don't like math.
Don't know if you noticed my shirt, Middle Tennessee State University. We kind of produce a lot of geniuses, and I'm just kind of flexing that
Sure.
on here.
I got you. Well, South Carolina does all right with some people,
They do pretty well.
and then with others, not as much. Could be a choice thing.
I'm telling you, I can do some killer adding math with the help of a calculator.
Jimmy Haslam has a lot of money.
A lot more than $12.
Did he go to Tennessee, I guess?
He was at University of Tennessee.
That's what I thought. He owns the Cleveland Browns, in addition to Pilot Flying J and probably other stuff, too. His brother was the governor. But he says that the Deshaun Watson signing was, quote, a big swing and a miss.
You think?
That's his words. We took a big swing and a miss with Deshaun. We thought we had the quarterback. We didn't. And we gave up a lot of draft picks to get him. So we've got to dig ourselves out of that hole. The trade was an entire organization decision, and it ends with D and I. That's his wife. So hold us accountable.
Only gave up a lot of draft picks in your dignity.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. And God forbid I'm the one who's going to sit here and defend Truck Stop Jimmy. You didn't know that Deshaun was just going to devolve into someone with a horrible public reputation and have that directly affect how he began to play football. There's no doubt in my mind that all of the things that were happening to Deshaun began to weigh on him to the point where he's no longer successful. And then he's been hurt twice, too, which is no direct fault of his own. But, yes, Jimmy Haslam, you made a foolish business decision. You did. But I can appreciate why you thought for a minute it was going to work until it didn't.
He did know, like, it wasn't like Deshaun Watson's issues were a secret.
Yeah, they weren't.
At the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he didn't sit there at that table with him when Deshaun Watson really denied all accountability.
Well, remember he said that too, right?
Yeah.
Like, D and I talked to him, and
it's like, if that was the answer you knew you were going to get at the press conference when you had him, why the hell did you make that decision?
I don't know. So I do put most of it on the Haslams.
That's my thing. Is like, I get how one can believe that this was unpredictable. I could also believe, and I kind of lean towards, this might have been very predictable because
I don't disagree.
Really publicly he was showing no remorse. He was showing nothing.
He didn't deny it. I guess he just didn't. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, there was no accountability, no true accountability on his part publicly. Which, if he shared that publicly, I can imagine he shared that sentiment privately.
Like, wasn't it kind of like, hey, if I did like hurt somebody's feelings, like that's not what I meant to do, or something like that?
Yeah, like the worst thing anybody can tell you is, or one of the worst things. And there's a lot of bad things people can tell you, but one of the worst and more insulting things is someone say, "Well, sorry if that, if someone says something like really mean to you, saying sorry if that hurts your feelings." No, it did, and I'm telling you it did.
Yeah, right.
And now you're invalidating that by being an a-hole. But that was kind of the stance he took, and it wasn't like those accusations happened, everything, those lawsuits were filed, all of that happened, and he was fresh off of an all-pro year. He didn't play football for a year.
Right.
You kind of need to keep playing football to be at the top of your game. I would say the major statistical regression was maybe one of the more predictable things. Maybe not to the degree that it did, but still pretty predictable.
Deshaun is guaranteed to receive $46 million by the end of 2026.
Way to go, Jimmy.
In addition to whatever he's already gotten paid.
Yeah, I think that qualifies as a swing and a miss.
Swing and a miss. Thanks to Coach Maneri for joining us. For Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Y'all be safe on the roads. We'll do it again tomorrow. So long.